I will tell you the list of my preferred investments to start. One is actually life insurance. That one is always a ticklish subject simply because people automatically assume that life insurance doesn't give you back anything.
Welcome to Jus Ah Conversation, the podcast where we explore real issues that matter to you. I am Aisha Reid, and joining me today is my very special co-host,
Sharon Austin-Gill-Moore.
In this episode, we dive into the essentials of managing money and enhancing financial literacy. We'll explore practical tips for budgeting, saving, and investing. And the biggest question of all, is financial literacy only deemed important to persons who make a certain amount of money? We brought some amazing guests here for you today, so I let Sharon introduce them.
Yes, three amazing guests. And they are David Simpson, who is the lead consultant at Prestige Accounting Incorporated. He is also the national coordinator of the National Financial Literacy Program, which is based in the Ministry of Energy and Business. We also have Nikita Gibson. She is the senior vice president of Clarity Life Insurance Limited, and she has so much experience, not only in insurance, but also in financial health, wealth management, and investments. And of course, we have Janelle Bruce. She's an educator and the mother of two. She sought advice from Nikita, followed it, and came through. And she's the better for it. And she's going to share her experience with us so we can all benefit from that story.
Okay, we're going to start with David today. The lone gentleman at the table. Let's get down to it. So tell me why, just introduce yourself a little bit and then tell me the importance of managing your money.
Well, I thought my introduction from Sharon was enough. Chartered accountant by profession, and have been spending most of my time providing services to micro, small, and medium-sized entities. For about 18 years, I also did training of new accountants, and since 2020, coming out of COVID, I have been focused on, one, financial literacy on behalf of the government's program, and also providing enhanced services to the clients that I had before.
Okay. Nikita?
Okay, well, Sharon did do a very good job. Apart from being the senior vice president for Clarity Life, I'm also the lead financial educator for an online blog called my2cents.bb. It's only on Instagram currently. And one of the things that I've been focusing on, and similarly to David, it was coming out of COVID, is actually enhancing financial literacy across Barbados. And I've been doing a number of programs, whether online, in person, annual seminars, working with the National Financial Literacy Program, but also working with individuals one-on-one, such as Janelle, to enhance their current financial health and wellness, essentially.
So Janelle, you could just tell me a little bit about yourself and how you found Nikita.
Okay, thank you very much. As you would have introduced, I am an educator. I've been teaching for over 20 years. I started teaching very early, so I went into the workforce, and it was balancing work and school for an extended period of time. And with the balancing of work and school also came the bills. Mm-hmm. And since I started working so early, I also started getting loans early. Mm-hmm. And then it just was piling up as time would have passed on. I think when we had COVID, I think it was when we would have launched My 2 Cents on Instagram. And that would have been a few years ago. And it was just seeing these little tidbits. And I knew where I wanted to be, but I knew I wasn't there after all the years of adulting. What I really bring to this table is living an adult life, right? It is not easy.
And you're a mother too, right?
And I'm a mother as well, yes. Right. And with what we were experiencing with COVID, I remember there were just a number of things that Nikita would be posting on the page. I was like, you know what, let me see how much it would cost to reach out to have a session with this person because she seemed very knowledgeable, and what she was posting was very relatable. So I just messaged and I asked her, so how much it would be if we wanted to do a consultation? She said, no, it would be free. You just let me know.
Seriously.
Well, but I don't know if it was just for me. I felt really special. I was like, okay, let me see how I can get myself together, because I had a lot of debt at that time, and I knew we were outgrowing our space. We were renting, and I knew I wanted to have my children in a more comfortable living experience. And I reached out to her, and she wasted no time in setting up a session for us, and we had a number of sessions. And yes, and as we go on, we talk more. You will hear more about how she would have assisted.
Okay, so first off, I don't even know the answer to this question. What really is financial literacy? Educate me. Anybody?
I think Janelle started. We could start the program.
Yeah. Tell us.
That's the long and short of it. Recognizing you have a challenge with your personal finances and seeking the advice and the understanding. In her case, she went to a financial advisor or coach if you want. In other cases, you may simply do research or speak to a colleague or a friend or family member who has the experience. So what we have had traditionally across Barbados, and it's not limited to Barbados, but that's where we are members, citizens, and residents who interact with the financial system out of necessity, but they don't understand it. People go into courts or massy to take out something, as they say. They sign on a dotted line. They have no idea what the terms are. They don't know what interest is. They don't know if it's better to pay in 3 months or pay $7 a month for the next 10 years. They don't know. They buy a vehicle, same thing. They sign on a loan or a lease agreement. They don't understand. They get a credit card. When Nikita and I do sessions and tell them the interest rate on a credit card is 22% per annum, they're like, huh? So of necessity, we have to interact with the system. But what we are about now, the National Financial Literacy Program, persons like Nikita, My 2 Cents, the Central Bank, other people who are involved in financial literacy, is making sure people can make informed decisions and understand every financial transaction they get involved in. The reality is, life is a financial transaction. There's nothing we can do that does not relate to or revolve around some type of finance. Even if it is free, there's some type of finance involved. So it's to get people to the point where they're comfortable going into a bank or their credit union and having a loan and being able to have a conversation with the loans officer, ask a question, and what does this clause mean? Or I'm not comfortable with that. What would happen if I did this over 3 years instead, etc., etc.
Because I find that people don't ask those questions.
Because they're afraid.
Right.
If there's one thing that people are afraid of, is money. As common and as necessary as money is, people are fearful. And a lot of the time it's because they know, and maybe Janelle had similar experience where I earn an X, but I paying out Y. This ain't working. Or I can fill the void with a loan, not knowing if that is the best decision or how else to do it, etc. And sometimes there's a cycle. We call it a debt cycle.
Right.
And that can lead to a poverty cycle, etc. So it's at the end of the day, is to have better understanding about it. You go into a restaurant, most people comfortable and know what each item on the menu is. You go into a bank or any financial institution, we want you to understand what is a line of credit, what is a checking account, a saving account, what is interest rate, how does it affect all of these things, a mortgage, again, a home, and then, as Nikita will tell you, a mortgage, the institution tells you you need insurance. What type of insurance? What are the different things? So there is a lot of information out there financial that people need to navigate, and we want people to be comfortable navigating in that space and move from almost like Maslow's hierarchy, move from financial education to financial wellness at the top of that pyramid where they can interact with the system. And it's not if I can afford it, it's how am I going to afford it? Because I've mapped it out, I've planned it out. There's nothing that I want that I can't afford because I have planned it out and I know what I am interacting with.
Okay.
Nikita, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts
I
as
just
well?
wanted to know for sure, like, how do we get people there?
Well, to be honest, I think that David mapped it out really well. And the truth is I always tell persons, the first place to start is knowing where you are. because you can't know where you need to get to unless you know where your current financial position is. And not just your current financial position, but what's your current financial education level. And having that conversation with individuals, you kind of get a sense of what's their current picture look like for their household, but also what things they know or they don't know. And it's all about listening initially. So usually when I meet with persons, I listen to them. It actually goes a little bit like somewhat like a therapy session. You know, they tell me about their family, the things they like, things about their children, etc. And then once we're done, then after I've listened, I've taken all the notes, then it's about going to say, okay, now we have a good idea of what you know, what you don't know, what you have and what you don't have. Now let's talk about where you want to be. So then we take a look and we assess your goals, etc., where you want to achieve, when you want to achieve them, how much are those things going to cost, and we sit down and we map out a plan. So the truth is that it's all about that overall plan. A financial plan is where you need to be, and that tells you where you are in your financial education and your literacy, and tells you where you are with your money currently, where you need to get to, and then we sit down to determine what are all the steps involved. So usually with that sit down, it's not just about me telling you, well, do X, Y, or Z. You need to understand why. You actually need to understand the product. You need to understand the options that are available to you. Because realistically speaking, you don't want to have to rely on someone like me or David or the National Financial Literacy Program forever. You would like to get to the point where you yourself can manage on your own. And not necessarily that you would have all of the information in your head, but you are armed with the enough information that you know exactly what questions to ask as well when it comes to you selecting which products or services will work best for you.
But I know that some people would say that sounds like a lot of work. That's not for me. I just live paycheck to paycheck, week to week. So you could tell me yours.
Because when David was speaking, I laughed because I remember one of the issues I had, I was doing a lot of debt cycling, right?
Right, yeah.
And Nikita comedy consolidated boss because I was just doing a whole lot of debt consolidation and coming in. I think one of the issues that I would have faced going into adulthood is that my only experience with financial literacy would have been through my mother's experiences.
Right.
And although I'm an educator, it's not as though I was lacking knowledge, but it was really the application. And even although I would know things, is also understanding how to go about doing anything. So I remember the first loan I had, I had saved some money. I was like, good, I got this money. It was $4,000, I'll never forget. But I want a vehicle. I had this old car I used to cuddle at UE. And I was like, nah, I need to get something. So I saw a Samurai and I was like, this is what I want. So I went to the bank and I said, okay, well, what we will do, we will hold your $4,000 and we will loan you the $12,000 for the vehicle at that time. So I was like, but I got any money, why you gonna do that? But that was for them to have on their own terms, you know? And from then it was like, getting this money, I got my money here, so holding, but then end up using that and using what they had. They were lending me and they were going like that. And yes, it would sound like a lot in the time, but as you go and you practice, and one thing that Nikita would have done with going through, I had the Dave Ramsey, that budgeting thing or whatever, but to go from there, your budgeting with something in mind. You have to be able to map out what you have. So she took me from, I know this is how much I have to spend and this is what I need each month, and how I would put it to what in what cases, and make sure I have money left back to go towards getting a mortgage, etc. But when you do it step by step, it was actually much easier for me than looking at it. And she helped me to see, okay, yes, there is a big picture, but how are we going to get to that big picture? So I had to shed a lot of what I thought I needed to do to what I actually needed to do. And it helped then to have somebody to check in and to be accountable, help you to be more accountable with your spending. But it was easier than I thought because I was getting the information, and I also had this goal in mind. So when she said that you break down knowing, hey, this is what you want in this life, but before we get to what you want, what do you actually have to work with?
Yeah.
And that really helped me to see, hey, it can't go beyond my means. I go, and some people, you know, you're not really living up to try to match with the Joneses or anything like that.
It's
but
true.
It was really this is what for you to achieve, you can achieve, but just consider what you actually have in the moment, and that really helps a lot.
Because I'm thinking, as I listen to your experience and listen to everybody, you can see why it is so important to start early, even teaching young people these
Correct.
things so that they don't fall into the situation you fell into and that so many of us fall into.
Yes.
So in that regard, because we know that the government has been actually teaching financial literacy to primary and secondary school students. So how has that been going? Is that bearing any fruit, David and Nikita?
That's bearing significant fruit. We have schools now chomping at the bit and telling our schools coordinator we want to be part of the program beyond the resources we currently have.
That's great.
Nikita joined us this school year as one of the facilitators as well. And I know she's been having from all reports and her posts in the WhatsApp group some good experiences with the schools she's been at. But the aim here is to, look, we are trying to change a culture and a mindset nationally. And I'm happy to hear that Janelle is kind of the exception to the rule where we can change behaviors in adults who have been set in their ways, so to speak. It's not that easy all around. And that's why the schools program is so critical. We need to get them before they are set in their ways. And the other thing is getting to the school children and giving them the knowledge. We trust and hope that they will go home to their parents and say, Mommy, Daddy, Auntie, Granny, I learned this today about financial literacy. Do you have a budget? Do you save? Do you invest? Etc. So that that conversation continues because it's a behavior we're trying to change. The children are receptive. What I've found from the feedback I've had and the few schools I've visited, these children have a lot of financial knowledge.
Wow. Okay.
The issue is that this knowledge has not been honed and channeled before. So in the first 2 terms earlier this year, because we started in the second term of last academic year, students know about different currencies, about cryptocurrency, about Bitcoin, about saving, investing, stock exchanges.
No more than me.
But this is not what you're going to hear them in the schoolyard talking about with
Yeah,
their friends.
that's true.
But once the questions are given, the workbook is placed before them, the facilitators engage. For the most part, a lot of them are quite knowledgeable. And they're looking at it on YouTube. So again, even with them, we want to channel them, change their mindset. Go on YouTube to watch your favorite shows, but go on YouTube to learn about money as well, right? And we are working with the Ministry of Education and the principals and so on to now get financial literacy more cemented into the curriculum. That will take a little longer, but we believe that that is necessary. So that program has been working well. Going back to a point that Janelle made about step by step, I think that is critical. I think one of the challenges we've had with financial literacy, which again highlights why dealing with the young people and children is so critical, is that people believe that saving, investing, getting on a sound financial footing is an overnight process.
Yes. Yeah.
You can get into debt faster than you can get out. And getting in is easy without any management. Getting out takes careful attention and discipline and management. And I think a lot of people get frustrated when they realize, I can't achieve what I want financially in 6 months. I can't get rid of my debt in 1 month. It takes time and you have to be disciplined. And so I think that is great advice, step by step, and learn as you go along. Because if you can learn, and Janelle is sharing her experience now, and she can share that with friends, family, co-workers, then we start to have the waves across the island, which is what we really want.
So Nikita, tell me a little bit about the plans to budget and to save and the importance of doing that, because so many people do not save.
Well, before you even take that step into saving or budgeting, it goes back to the fundamentals that we kind of laid out earlier. I think all 3 of us kind of mentioned this in different ways, and that is starting with knowing where you are. If you don't know your money, you don't know what is available to save. You don't know what is available to budget even. One of the things that we do as a part of the My 2 Cents community is that, and we do have a WhatsApp community as well, is that we actually share this spreadsheet. And this spreadsheet itemizes everything. And we always tell persons is that before you take this journey, just know that it is going to be very humbling. Okay? And the biggest and the hardest part of this journey is actually seeing your numbers in front of you in one place. And I'm talking about seeing how much money I'm making every month, how much money you're paying out in groceries, gas with the car, buying lunch every day, everything like that. And then seeing how much you have saved. seeing what liabilities you have and who you owe, and as well as seeing what's the value of your assets associated with those liabilities. And just in that moment, seeing it for some persons can be a bit scary, but that really and truly is the first step to saving and budgeting. Once you know how you're spending your money and where it's coming from, you can then decide, okay, this is how I actually want to allocate that money. I need to set up a budget that allows me to achieve these particular goals or these particular tasks while still living, right? And once you've done that, then you can look to see from my budget, how can I actually save? And your savings should actually be a part of your budget. You should identify for yourself just how much you can set aside each month. One of the biggest challenges we have, David would have mentioned the fact that persons typically, in terms of their money, trying to figure out where it should go and what's there. But it's also about identifying and realizing that you don't need a lot to start. And I do a lot of speaking engagements. And this weekend I was speaking to this church group for their retreat. And one of the things we were discussing was I suggested, here's a recommendation. You should have at least 5 bank accounts. And they were very surprised by that suggestion.
Yeah, tell me about that one.
So the suggestion is really around the premise of having one bank account for your short-term savings, the things you want to achieve in the next 12 months, a bank account for your intermediate savings, the things you want to achieve in the next 1 to 5 years, one for your long-term savings, which are the things you want to achieve in more than 5 years, and then one for your emergency fund, and then one checking account. So it's actually 4 savings and 1 checking account. And the reason for that is that it's very hard for us to differentiate how much money you've put into account, how much you've used for a particular goal. So this way it kind of allows you to better track your money. So when I said that to them, their immediate reaction was, well, it's only 1 salary to the 5 accounts. So how do you do it? I said, but in Barbados, whether it's the credit union or the commercial banks, usually it takes no more than $50 to $100 to open an account.
Yes, that's
so no one is ever saying that you have to open an account with thousands of dollars. But the reality is you have to start somewhere. And I always share a little example. I opened a new bank account with a new bank recently. And I started with $200. And then every month, I would strategically add on money to that account until it reached the minimum amount to be able to transfer out to their higher paying interest account. And people will automatically just deter themselves by not opening that account simply because the starting balance was, the minimum balance is $2,500.
Right,
I didn't have the $2,500 when I started. I had the 200 and I worked my way up over a number of months to get there. And the reality is it's being able to identify that step by step that David and Janelle would have been referring to. And once you know where you are, you can set that budget, you can determine how much you need to save and how much you can save. I will caution persons to never make unrealistic budgets and unrealistic saving goals, because then what you do is you create a barrier for yourself, both mentally and physically and financially, being able to reach those goals. And what you've done is set up yourself for failure even before you start.
Correct.
Right? So that's what I'll say.
Discipline is important, so I support that too.
Okay. And I was wondering, 2 things came to my mind as Nikita spoke. The aspect of children, because we're encouraging adults to save, but what about children? And maybe Janelle can take the lead on this one. How do you encourage your children to save? And okay, I'll stop there, and then I'll pick up on another point that I heard about a person telling their child how to save. Okay.
Because funny enough, when Nikita was speaking just now, the less money you have, I actually found it much easier for me.
Please say it again, Janelle.
The less money you have makes it easier for you to budget, to save, to actually live than the more. Because the more money you have, the more chances you will take with that money, and then you put yourself in a really bad position. So that's why I really wish that we had these opportunities when we were younger to learn more about financial literacy. And it's not easy for all children. I find more of our children who are street smart. They're the ones who are really good with. So they have a
Yeah.
goal. They know that they want a pair of shoes or whatever. It's
Right.
like, I saving this money for the shoes.
Correct.
And they are good with that.
And they can say, I ain't
Right.
buying lunch today. I ain't doing this.
They
I ain't
do
doing
a
that.
lot of that.
Yeah.
I see that at work. I teach in a secondary school. That is the norm. These children
Right.
are not eating, or if they say they want to eat, they want big food the Friday.
Yeah.
Them be eating all week to have this
The
big
big
food the
food.
Friday evening. With children now who have more access to things at their fingertips, it's harder for you to get them. My experience with my son, it's harder when he knows that he's gonna get. He ain't interested in the saving now. But what I was doing with him from when he was younger, that every week if you get $10, okay, you put aside some of this money. This is your savings money. This is your spending money, and this is so you will save just saving. But I also had him a charge for every $1. I charge him 10 cents. Right? I was doing that. That's the interest. That's that's the government tax and stuff. So he taxing you. And I just started it with my daughter because she's young, she's 7. So she wouldn't get a lot of spending money, but she knows that whatever she spend, you still gotta give me back some. And that worked with him for a period of time. Now he's older. I want him to see. So he started his first job on Saturday. He got a little part-time job. And I had given him money. I said, you gotta give me back the money when you done work. Right? Because I give you this is your
Startup fund.
startup, right? You gotta get lunch money for the day, but at the end of the day, you gotta give it back to me. And they want him to start to see that what you put in or what is given to you, it has to go back in some form or fashion, and to dedicate. This is your spending money. This is your tax money. This is your savings. And so I'm now in the process of getting back into the executing it. I have not been as diligent because I was also trying to get myself together.
Right.
But with children, the earlier you start, the easier it is. The less they have, the easier it is. So that you can then build on that. So the more you get, you see, the more you're going to be paying out and how you're going to allocate those funds. So I would say you start small. With the younger ones, they get $1 a day, 10 cents coming back in.
Right.
You know this dollar. You know what you want to achieve at the end of the week. You set aside 50 cents from that dollar to help you achieve the big food, and also be able to carry into something else as well, a goal that you may have in mind.
I'm
I
very
think before you go on, Sharon, I think one of the things with children, we assume children will not understand. I think we need to be
We show them to
more transparent with
yeah,
children
that's true.
about our money.
Correct.
And I'm speaking from experience too. So what I did with my daughter last year, I think, or earlier this year, I said, you know what? Your parents look after you, so you don't have to worry about spending money on certain things. But I'm going to start giving you an allowance every week, and you have to manage that, and we can discuss what you do with it. Now, of course, she puts it in a purse or wherever and doesn't leave home with it. So, but what I said, no, she has a credit union account. So I said to her, every time I give her money each week, how much of this is going to your account and how much you're going to keep for if you leave home on the weekend or you're doing stuff with friends or whatever. And that has been working. And I said, what are the things you want? She likes to have a wish list for gifts or different things she wants. Which of these things on the wish list you buy in, and which things I am going to agree to buy for you. But I'm also transparent with her. When she has a wish list and I traveling and she want ABC, I say, okay, so we can get 2 of these now because I can't buy all of these one time.
Correct.
Spread these out. So that she understands the management of money. So I think we need to have the conversation more. As soon as I pick her up from school, so we're going on with the allowance, where it is, what you're doing with it, have you spent any, what you spent it on, and that kind of thing. So I think that way, it is not just now the conversation, but we actually getting them to practice what we're telling them. And I love your idea about the 10 cent back.
That's brilliant.
I think I have to start a levy for transportation and after school activities and whatnot.
Yes.
But I think we need to be more transparent so that money is not this thing that they see as this burden and this big responsibility,
Yeah.
which
It's
it
not a
is, but it
topic.
doesn't have
Yeah.
correct. It doesn't have to be what it has been culturally, not just here but globally, for so many.
Because you know that Bajans don't talk about money,
Yeah.
No,
we
they
don't talk
don't.
about it.
And
That's
I
a
was
problem.
That's very true. And I was thinking, and that's why maybe our children actually think that the parents are money trees.
Yeah.
So you go, Mom, I want this, Dad, I want this, and they constantly, and sometimes the parent doesn't have it, or you have it, but it's for something else. But because the child is asking for it,
Yeah.
you're given. So therefore, the child does not realize that,
responsibility of money here.
there are hardships. So, and I what I was going to share earlier was one that someone said to me at one of the meetings we had, the financial literacy meetings. The person made the point that give children under 12 a certain amount of money, and every week they have to give you back money for $1 for housing, $1 for electricity, $1 for food. But in taking that money, you're taking it, so $3 every week, but you're actually putting in money towards savings.
No, correct.
So are we too soft on our children when it comes to money?
So I'll be honest with you. I think we are. And I think what David and Janelle are doing are excellent things.
Correct.
But I will actually challenge us to even go even further. So I like the idea of giving money and maybe taking it back for housing or taxes or transport, right? Because it really gives them a true understanding that these things are not free, right? There is a cost to them, and they get accustomed to realizing that they have to pay for these things.
It's a responsibility.
Correct. But financial literacy and education of our children is going to go beyond teaching them budgeting and saving. I'll give you an example. When I was growing up, our parents, we would go to the supermarket as a family, but whenever we would get to the cash register, my dad would always give me the checkbook. And it was my job growing up. This was in primary school. My job was to write the check for the groceries every single month that we go to the supermarket. And because of that small act, I don't think my dad necessarily knew what he was doing. It was just he just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But because of that, I'm an adult who knows how to fill out a check.
Right.
Now,
Please don't take that for granted. Trust me.
I really cannot, because I had an adult one time that told me that they did not know what the two lines in a check meant.
I had a
So they had a
qualified
check and they
accountant
called
under
me and
my
they
charge
asked.
who didn't know.
Correct. And some adults actually don't know how to fill out a check. So there are little things that you could kind of give your children exposure to that goes beyond budgeting and saving. Things like writing a check, using the ATM. How many of us have been stuck behind someone at the ATM who obviously doesn't know how to use it? But let your child actually go through the process, getting the money or withdrawing the money. And that is practical experience that they're never going to get until they become an adult or they get access to their own cards, right?
Right.
So writing checks, accessing that understanding, or even showing them the process when you file your taxes every April. They're never going to experience that themselves until they get to the point where they need to file taxes. So it's these little things, showing them things like calculating your NAS, calculating your income tax. There are lots of adults that get their pay slip every week, and they don't know if
it right
HR
or
is
wrong.
deducting the right amount for income tax or for NAS. And it's a simple percentage calculation that our kids are already doing at school. You just need to give them the numbers and let them practice it. And these are things that you are doing to really and truly get them to the point where they're financially literate by the time they reach that adult life. My
think
mom did the same thing for medical insurance.
Right.
Every time we went to the doctor, I had to fill out the medical form. I had an adult recently that in conversation, they were asking me, they don't know why they have the health insurance for, because they've never gotten anything. So I said, but have you ever submitted a claim? No, what's that? Wow. So they've been paying health insurance for years as a part of a company group health plan. And they have never submitted a claim because they didn't know that they had to get the form from the doctor, fill it out and submit it in. Something as simple as that, and that really provides the foundation for financial literacy.
Yeah. And if I may, one more thing to add that you would have said in terms of the little things, even just paying for a good or goods and then not waiting for change and all that. I remember giving my daughter, you give her $5 to buy what she wants.
Gotta bring back my
and then you can't
change.
bring out the change, right? But children, they walk away because
walk
they
away.
have what they want.
Yep.
They
Correct.
give you the money, they are
Correct.
finished. So there are a lot of little things that we can do to help. And one of the things which is different now, growing up in a village and you go to the shop, you gotta go by
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
My son didn't know about things. So I told him that I would give you $50 and this listy things. And you gotta, when you go in, so you deciding how this money is going to be spent, right?
Brilliant.
Those are the little things that we have to do with our children, because we don't have so many corner shops anymore. You don't have so many ways, you send each other with a long list and to come back with the
And the
things.
shopkeeper gonna help put it out and make
You
sure it
don't
right.
have,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. You don't have that. So now we have to then change how our approach then to our children and their spending.
I want to mention something too. I wanted to applaud you for the part-time job that your son has, because I find that Barbadians are sheltering children from that, getting that responsibility from early. I don't know why, but I had a part-time job from the time I was like 14.
Yeah.
I grew up in my mother had a business, and up to now I left home and I still work in the business with her. But people would be like, when I was at secondary school, so where you working for Christmas? Because I want money.
You want your money,
Right?
Your own money.
But a lot of parents I find like to shelter their children from that, and I applaud you for that.
I think we need to remember we preparing them for adulthood as
Exactly.
Yes.
well. My daughter has been working for vacations probably for like 2 years now. But one of the motivations I had for starting the whole allowance is that she wants to go overseas next year to study. I gotta be sending money to her to live.
Correct.
She gotta know to manage this money. I won't be there. Her mother won't be there.
Exactly.
Right? So it is partly to practice that. And some of the things Nikita listed and Janelle, all of these are things that it's not just about managing money, but none of us around the table had anybody sit us down and say, well, when you get your first paycheck, here's how you got. We figured it out.
Yeah.
Right? And now I understand why when I was growing up and I said, mommy or dad, I want money. And it was mainly my mother because she controlled the finances. That is not in the budget. I was like, how is my father going to work every day? My mother saying we never have money. This don't make sense. Right? But the older I got and started to work and run a household and saw myself, then I realized it wasn't that she didn't have money. The money was already allocated
Correct.
to specific
That's something
things.
else.
Right? And she had her little book, and if something came up, she had to shift money from doing X to do Y. And she, right? So all of that is good practice, but I'm just saying we need to be transparent and make sure our children get the exposure to it, because
sure.
we are responsible for if they have the same experience as us, as Janelle said, adulting.
Adulting.
It
Sure.
sound real good when you're young, right? But when you get to this point, you got rent to pay and a car loan to pay and groceries to
Light,
buy.
everything.
And
Yeah.
then, oh shoot, you got light and water to pay, and then you got
Correct.
to buy clothes and shoes too. So that is what we're practicing them for at the end of the day.
What about investing?
That is Nikita's job.
On
Like we
yeah.
should everybody try to invest a little something, or should we save? What should we do?
Before
The difference
you
between the
even
two first?
consider saving, before you even consider investing, you should have adequate savings. That's the rule of thumb that applies to everybody, because this is why I will say to you, once you have saved and then you move into the realm of investing, which is basically taking your money and making it earn interest. That's all you're doing in
Right.
terms of investing.
Correct.
The simplest form of which is a bank account, because a bank account earns interest. That's the simplest form of investing, right? So the moment you are taking your money and putting it into something, calling it an investment, you're waiting for money, it should never be that money that you need to live on. That's the reason why we always say to save. And the reason for that is that in any form of investing, there is a risk. No matter how small that risk is, there's a risk. There's a risk that you lose some of the money. There's a risk that you can lose all of the money. It isn't just going to automatically grow, right? And depending on what you invest in, the money will fluctuate as well. So when the money goes down, will you be at QH having a heart attack? Or will you'll be watching it, but monitoring it and ensuring, well, you'll watch it as the markets fluctuate. If you know within yourself that the money that you're going to be putting to invest is what you need to pay rent, to pay your mortgage or groceries, that's not your investing money. It has to be money that you could lose. That is very important. Money you could lose, not money you want to lose, but money that you could lose and still survive and live every day without disrupting your life. That's what investing, the money you're going to do for investing starts.
Okay,
But I just wanted to say, in terms of the investment, when the government had forced us to do the investment, right? At that time, it really did seem very scary, and it really did. I was like, I'm not putting all of what they're telling me I should have put, but now I'm getting it back, guys. I'm getting back the money that I invested those 4 years ago, and I'm telling myself, why didn't I put in a little bit more? Right? Because, and then I can now use what I'm getting back from the boss program to invest in something because that was money I wasn't even looking to. I knew it was going to come a few years later, but I still wasn't looking for it. And I said, so there are some people who are very risk averse and people who are not going to take the chances. So when it comes to investment, and Nikita will say, if you don't have it, don't try to do it.
Right.
So I have not made any efforts before, but now since I had that forced thing, and you could do the small thing. Government bonds is a really good one to do to help. But now I'm getting that back. I say I got you let me meet to see how I can put back the little few cents that I had. I'm getting back now into something because I wasn't looking for it before.
So
You're,
funny.
you're available to do webinars because I think that people need to hear from somebody different than me or Nikita, who they can say, man, them is experts and them know we're going.
For sure.
I am available.
Yeah.
One of your Corey, he told me, Janelle, yes, open yourself to these
Very
things,
good,
right?
very good,
Yes,
very
so
good.
I am.
So with that in mind, Nikita, Janelle just highlighted the boss bonds. So what are some other investment options that are available so that people can always diversify their portfolio?
So first of all, I too am currently getting back some of my boss bonds. They're maturing. Needless to say, it was one of those things where it was out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
It's only within the last 2-3 months where I've started seeing this additional money being deposited. I was
Yes.
like, wait, hold on. Where did I get money from?
Yes.
And I remembered then that I have these boss bonds, and I was actually one of the persons. I'm not a part of the public sector, so I actually bought from someone from the public sector through the central bank during COVID when it was first launched. And I'm happy to say that, I've been able to get back my principal and my interest. And honestly, it has been a very good investment. So because I started back then, I would have gotten 5%
Yes.
compared to the current issuance of 4.5%.
Correct.
So in terms of investments that are available from Barbados, there are actually quite a bit. I know that people always say, oh, there's no way to invest from Barbados. There are no investments available, but that's actually not the case. I will tell you the list of my preferred investments to start. One is actually life insurance. That one is always a ticklish subject simply because people automatically assume that life insurance doesn't give you back anything. But with every single product, there is always a particular type or subtype that actually meets the needs that you want. And that's where the financial education literacy comes in. You need to understand the different types of life insurance that's available so you can choose the one that's actually an investment vehicle. So life insurance. There's also real estate. I think we live in a region, unlike the US, Canada, and the UK, where there's mass fluctuations in real estate prices. We live in a region where we generally only see appreciations and hardly ever see depreciations or devaluations of properties. And I think during COVID, with the boom of the welcome stamp, etc., and need I say, I think the last couple of years, Barbados has been on the global map for everybody and on everybody's lips and everybody's tongues. You're really seeing a mass entrance into Barbados where persons want to rent, whether it is short-term rentals or long-term rentals. I mean, we even have Ross University here. I mean, a couple of years ago, we wouldn't have had that opportunity. But real estate is actually a really good investment option for anybody looking for something that is particularly stable and that will appreciate over time as well.
Right.
We have peer-to-peer lending in Barbados, which is done by Caroline Barbados.
Yeah.
They facilitate peer-to-peer lending, and I think right now they are averaging about 8.7% in returns for persons who are coming on board as investors. You have alternative energy, which I know has been a big thing. Everybody's putting solar panels on their houses or anywhere. But for those persons who may not have the option or may not have a house to put solar panels on, there's actually a cloud solar option where you can buy solar panels that are on already existing farms in Barbados, and you can earn on a monthly basis from those as well. And that's around 8%, give or take as well. We would have mentioned the Boss Plus bonds, which are now 4.5%. We also have the standard vanilla investments like mutual funds. You have the term deposits. There's actually a really, really good product right now where persons from Barbados can actually invest directly in the international market. And I'm not just saying limited to the New York Stock Exchange, but also maybe even the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, depending on what you're trying to buy. That one is actually through e-brokerage. It's a product that Sagicor launched maybe sometime last year, give or take. And I particularly like that one because if you're someone who is new to investing, you're not sure what to do. If you want to buy stocks in Amazon, Microsoft, etc., you actually need to have an international brokerage account, which is a process in itself. But what Sagicor has developed is a product where you can actually set up that account yourself through them, and they will set that up for you. They would even do the applications for you to the Central Bank of Barbados in terms of getting your foreign exchange, and they will make all that organization for you. So it's much easier for someone who is new in the market, who's unsure of themselves, and they allow you to either manage the account yourself or have them manage it on your behalf. And that's a really good one for anyone who wants to get into international. Now, if you want to do regional stocks, right? So whether it is our stock exchange is not as active, for example, as Jamaica or Trinidad, and you want to get into getting shares into some of those regional entities, you can do that through a broker here. For example, you can do it with like Signia Globe Financial. I know RF Bank and Trust is another option as well. But then you have the investment companies like Fortress who are offering mutual funds who are directly invested in those regional markets as well. You also have Sagicor, who similarly invest in both regional and international markets. So needless to say, there's quite a bit on the market available.
Okay, so you know what? We definitely will have to continue this conversation again. I sense that we have to do one on investment, one on budgeting, and maybe one on insurance, because you just sparked me just now with the life insurance thing, right? So final thoughts from everybody as we wrap up. We will start with you, David.
I think what I want to leave with listeners is financial literacy is for everyone, no exceptions. It's like a journey or a marathon. There can be some people that can finish it in an hour, some can take 2 hours, but everybody getting to the finish line. And if you can only save $1 a week, do that. If you can save $500 a month, do that. We give guidance. It is not, you then have to personalize the guidance to your particular scenario, but you need to save. And I'm happy to hear Janelle say earlier, it's easier to budget when you have less. When I do sessions, I tell people, the people who don't have money are the ones who most need to budget. Right? When I have money and I don't budget, I might have some excess money coming from somewhere that I remember I could pay bills or do whatever. But when I am on a strict budget, weekly wage or monthly salary that is not moving, I need to budget so I know how I'm dealing with my money.
Right.
So I really want persons listening to this podcast, right? Budgeting is for you. Investing is for you. Saving is for you. Being financially literate is for everybody. Regardless of where you are in society, how much your income is, what your educational background is, it doesn't matter. And there are people who we perceive have lots of money who need to be more financially literate too. So it is for everybody.
Nikita?
It's hard to go after David, if I'm being
I
honest.
don't know why. I was glad this put me before you.
But he really hit some nuggets there. I would just say not only is financial literacy for everyone, but wealth is for everybody. And we seem to put ourselves into silos thinking it's not going to happen for me, it's not going to happen for my family. But believe it or not, it really can. And the first step is actually changing your money mindset, right? Speaking positivity into it. So I always tell my friends, we done saying we bret or we broke,
Preach
right?
it. Preach it.
We're going to say currently I'm in between managing my money. Right? And that way we change how we think and maybe then how we approach, how we manage our money and manage our finances, right? So wealth is for everybody. It's not for just the persons who are making over $30,000 a month, but it's for the man on the street who is getting a wage on a weekly basis. You can reach wealth as well. But all it starts with is managing your money and going from there. So that's pretty much what I want to leave it with for everybody today.
Janelle?
Y'all put me in the very, very hot seat to come after the actual practitioners.
No, but you
But
are
as the adult,
Yes,
my
exactly.
takeaway, I want everybody to know is don't be ashamed of where you are and get help. because there are persons out here who can help you. You just need to admit where you are. Don't be ashamed. And it can be just a friend of a friend who can help you. Once you start, you say, I have an issue. I need help. The help will come. The financial advisors will come. Somebody's going to be able to point you in the direction that you need to help you to go to where you want to be and where you need to be, so we can have not just the understanding, but also the wealth as well created with what you, so you can start from nowhere, but don't be ashamed to start. You get the help.
Coming
you
to a
need.
webinar soon.
I walk away.
Drops mic.
Thank you so much for listening to Just a Conversation. We hope you learned a lot today. I certainly did. About budgeting, balancing, and for me, the investing. All in the effort to help us become more financial literate. Special thanks to Nikita Gibson, David Simpson, and Janelle Bruce for sharing with us. And also, very special thanks to my guest host, Miss Sharon Austin-Gill-Moore. Thank you very much. If you want to find out more, don't forget to visit our website or follow us on social media for more resources and tips. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and listen and download wherever you get your podcast for more inspiring conversations like this.